I was a radio operator for the battalion commander. I was in headquarters company, 3rd Battalion of the 175th Regiment of the 29th Infantry Division. And I had been trained in semaphore and also in CW, Morse code, but, as well as voice communication. Of course, in combat, we didn't use semaphore at all. The Navy used that mostly. And we didn't use CW, Morse code. It was too cumbersome. It took too long to get messages and decode them and things like that. So voice was what we used between battalion and regiment. So wherever the battalion commander went, I went. I mean, for the most part, when we were in a combat mode. I'd go up to the front lines with him, and he'd check on and see what the situation was, and I'd go with him. And whatever happened, happened to me at the same time it happened to him, and we had some close calls. I was rated a slow-speed operator. I only had a few weeks of Morse code. When we were stationed in Penzance, England, southwest England, a buddy of mine would go out and to a radio jeep in front of the building where we were billeted. And we'd open up a 284, SCR 284, communicating with the regimental headquarters by Morse code. And that's the way we operated, kept in communication with, and we kept that open all day. Just as, I guess, more practice than anything. But they had a high-speed operator at regiment. It said like that, and we just sent back, diddy dum dum diddy. We don't know what you're saying. Slow down. I was sworn in the 1st of December 1942, and I went home for a week, and I went back into active service December 8th, 1942. And I served and I was discharged October 17th, 1945. So I spent 34 months and 8 days in actual service. 28 months I spent overseas. And all those 34 months I never got home. I left home on December the 8th and I got home on October 17th, 1945. But I got home, and a lot of guys didn't. Well, you kept so busy, you know. A lot of guys were homesick, and I was married at the time, but I just married 6 months before I went in the service, which was a mistake. But, they keep you busy, and you don't have time to think about a lot of things, you know, except what you're actually doing and your purpose for being there, and what's going to happen later, you know. We were preparing for D-Day, Operation Overlord. So we stayed pretty busy. We trained in the moors of Devon and Cornwall in southwest England. And the actual invasion, Neptune, the Operation Neptune was an invasion part of overall Operation Overlord. So the invasion wasn't something exactly that we didn't know about. But we trained for amphibious operations on Slapton Sands on the coast of England. So we were familiar with that, but the scope of it in Operation Overlord was overwhelming. We weren't prepared for that exactly. Nobody could be prepared for that. But it was an experience, and we had went through a lot of hard times, but we had some interesting times. And overall, it was a great experience, an honor to serve our country, really. And wars are not really the answer to people's problems, but they're necessary sometimes, and World War II was necessary. Basically, people in general don't want wars, they want peace. They want a place to live and work and raise their family in safety. The German people, they were duped, you might say. They lost World War I, and they had lost a lot of national pride. And I think what they were trying to do was regain that pride. The reason they did the things they did But basically, the German people were good people. Of course, after the war and during the occupation, I spent 5 months in occupation. You couldn't find a Nazi in Germany. You couldn't find a Nazi in Germany. But basically, the people weren't. They weren't. They were those who wanted power and control, and it's the same way in every country all over the world. And that's the reason you have so many conflicts and so much evil things going on, so much violence, because there are those who ambition is control, control, control. And if we don't keep those people in check, then they're going to do more and more. Power corrupts, as they say, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when a leader gets a little power, he wants a little more and a little more and a little more. And it builds up to a point where the first thing you know, the people under the thumb of a ruthless leader, and they've lost their freedom, they've lost their privacy. And the greatest legacy a person in life is freedom. Freedom to do as you want, freedom to think and act. When freedom is stifled, then entrepreneurship and free thinking by the people is stymied. You don't really have the growth culturally and scientifically and in arts that you do when people are free and can do as they want to and let their minds roam freely and not have to worry about being careful not to say this and not to say that. People have got to learn to respect freedom and what it really means, It's too important. It was a most dramatic moment in my life, I guess. And the whole operation was so overwhelming that it was hard to really absorb everything that was going on. There was so much going on. I mean, there were ships coming the channel all over, carrying 150,000 troops toward the coast of Normandy, and thousands of planes flying over, and battleships firing their guns. And it was also awesome. It's indescribable, really. If you're not there and don't see it, then you really can't describe the scope of it, the immensity of it. The greatest amphibious operation in military history. It was something to be a part of. And you really don't have, I can't really say that I know I had some fear, apprehension, and anxiety because I didn't know what was happening. My division, the 29th Division, was a National Guard, Maryland National Guard division. Never been in combat, had no combat experience. The 1st Division, that landed on the left of the 29th, had combat experience in North Africa previously. So how they picked a National Guard outfit with no experience, I don't know whether they figured we were fodder for the German cannon, and they'd get rid of us first and the good troops would come in behind us or not. Not really, I don't really think that. I think they had confidence that Eisenhower, General Eisenhower, had confidence in our ability because he visited us in the field doing training in England. And I think he got a pretty good idea of the competence and the quality of the soldiers, because we had some good soldiers. Well, I didn't see the actual soldier in combat, but I know they showed bravery, and the soldiers that landed on Omaha Beach on D-Day showed courage that you can't imagine, courage and determination. I really can't imagine exactly how they felt. I mean, I landed on the 2nd day, and the beach area had just been cleared, but the Germans hadn't been, the situation was still fluid. And we met soldiers right off the beach that said, "Oh, we're glad to see you. We're glad you're here to help us." And I don't know, it's just you see those soldiers, and you see, when I landed, there were rows and rows of bodies on the beach. guys, American soldiers that just covered with their ponchos, waiting to be picked up to carried back or carried somewhere. American Cemetery overlooking Omaha Beach has 9,387 American soldiers resting in peace there. It's a beautiful place, and a lot of D-Day soldiers are buried there. I don't know of any of my friends that are buried there, but I know of some that are buried in Maastricht and other areas. There are 23 American cemeteries in Europe, and over 100,000 American soldiers are buried on foreign soil in Europe. I was involved for 11 months here, always in danger in a combat environment. For 11 months we were in combat environment. From VE Day from D-Day, June the 6th, 1944, to VE Day, May the 8th, 1945. You always, there were a few days when I was on leave in Paris. I might have been out of danger, but other than that, you're always, even back in the rest area, we got shelled. Had shells hit pretty close. And except for being very fortunate, I wouldn't be here today to talk about this. So really, you're in danger, and you get to the point where you feel like the law of averages is going to catch up with you. That's the way I got to feeling toward the end of the war. There was a time in April of '45 when I was willing to give an arm and a leg to get out of it. And then Roosevelt died in April, and that was a sad thing for us. We really felt his loss. We never got far enough away from it during those 11 months to really be out of danger. You get inured to it to a certain extent. And oftentimes it's the officers that inspire the soldiers to do better than they can. Fear breeds fear. The more you let fear control you, the more afraid you're going to be. And that's what happened to a lot of soldiers, well, I'll say some soldiers during the war, is fear got the best of them. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's overcoming fear and acting and doing your job in spite of your fear. So everybody was afraid. I doubt if it was a soldier on D-Day or even during the war that wasn't afraid or didn't have fear. It's inherent in a human being when your life's in danger. Well, not knowing the magnitude of it, I felt like I had been trained as well as I could be for whatever was to come, whatever happened. And I didn't feel unprepared when it started. I really didn't, because I knew my job, I knew what I had to do, and you almost do things automatically. And that's the thing about training, doing things over and over and over repetitively, that you get to do them automatically, almost without thinking, because I didn't have to do that much really thinking like a combat soldier, like the rifleman did. But still, you have to learn to do things automatically. It just has to come to you without giving a lot of thought. And that's where discipline comes in the Army, and why soldiers will do the things they do because of the discipline they've got in the training. And that's what young people lack today, is discipline. And I'm afraid, I don't know, but anyway, yeah, I felt prepared, and I felt like I could do my job. And I did to the best of my ability, and whatever I was called on to do, I did it. I didn't do anything heroic. I just did my job.
All right.
So I don't have any regrets about what I did. Hitler's slogan, whatever you want to call it, was Deutschland über alles, Germany overall. And that was his purpose, his obsession, was to gain control of all of Europe with the aid of Mussolini's fascist regime in Italy and Japan's imperialism, the Axis, evil Axis. They hoped to control the world, and that was his determination. And Hitler actually gained control over much of Europe. His mistake was attacking Russia. That's why he made his big mistake in attacking Russia. He lost too many men and too much of his military, his elite military forces. It was very, very necessary. And like I say, war shouldn't be the answer to the problems. People should be able to get together and talk and all. Like in this country, the American culture and the American principle has been agree to disagree. Today we're losing that. There are forces in this country that don't want you to disagree. They don't want to hear your side of it. So when we lose that, when we forget to agree to disagree in a respectful manner with each other, we respect your opinion, you respect mine. Even if we disagree about things, but we should just consider them. And the only hope for this country, compromise is the keystone that keeps this constitutional republic together. Compromise. Let's not compromise a principle, but compromise of a method to which to attain what's best for the people, what's best for the country. When we forget to do that, when one party gets control over the other, or stymies the voice of the other who disagree with them, then we're in real trouble. We've got to overcome that. We've got to get back to the old principle. I came up during the Depression and then World War II. And Tom Brokaw was right when he said, I begin to agree with him. That was the greatest generation. We were sealed, our character was sealed in the Depression. Well, we didn't have anything, you know. I lived in a two-room house. We got food and stuff from the neighbors, a lot of it. We lived on a few dollars a week. And then the war came along and we got in the war and we went through the training and the discipline. And it really did something to that generation. So we were fortunate that we had the experiences that we did. And it's unfortunate that young people don't have similar experiences. I don't mean to that extreme, but to get the discipline and the restrictive character that they need to really protect the freedom that we have today. It's very important. I feel honored, really, to have been a part of that. It was such an important thing. One of the most important things that's happened in this country and in the world since the Civil War, the American Revolution. And it was an honor to me to be a part of that. And I think most veterans feel that way. That it was something that was necessary, it was something that was not only protected our freedom, but it protected and brought the freedom to millions in Europe and other parts of the world. And there's nothing more important than that. And to be a part of that is really an honor and a privilege, and to serve your country in that capacity. And at that time, an important time in the history of this country and the history of the world. So I'm just fortunate to have lived through that, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of it. I think D-Day was something we ought to always remember. It was one of the greatest and most dramatic events in the history of the world. We should never forget it. Like somebody said, if we forget history, we're bound to repeat it. And that's something we don't want to repeat. We came very close to defeat on D-Day. If certain events had happened, our forces would have been pushed off and we wouldn't have gained a foothold on the continent of Europe. We were very fortunate, not only by events that happened with the Germans' forces, but what happened, the determination and bravery of American troops. And D-Day is something that should live forever in our memories. It should be taught. And all veterans have a responsibility to get their message out too. How else are the people going to learn about it? I mean, I'm not bragging and trying to put myself forward and say, here's what I did and let people know. It's just that people, the veterans need for the people to know what they did and what their experiences were and what they went through and what sacrifices they made to protect the freedom they have today and what made it easy for them to get along and live and make a life for themselves. They owe a debt of gratitude, and they owe them the effort to protect that freedom that people provided for them. And it's just something that is ingrained in my mind and in my memory, and it should be embedded in the minds of people, young people especially. They should know all the facts about D-Day. They should know all about the sacrifices, the blood and sweat and tears. Soldiers on the beaches with their insides were blown out, hanging out, and their arms blown off. They're drowning in the water because the boat let them off in water over their heads, and their packs and their rifles and all were too heavy for them to swim, and they drowned before they ever got to the beach. And then trying to find cover from direct German fire. That's the reason the Rangers climbed Point du Hoc to try to silence the German guns that had direct fire on Omaha Beach. Omaha Beach was the most heavily defended beaches of all of them, of all 5 beaches. And the Rangers were very heroic. They lost, I think, 65% of their men were trying to climb a cliff in the face of German fire right down on them. It's the acts like that that young people should remember, should know about, and should be aware of what. I mean, if it's not put to them and not told them in graphic terms, then they may shrug it off. Think, oh yeah, I've seen war pictures. That's just war. It's not real. They see it on the screen. It's not real on the screen. But to the veterans, it's real, and young people should understand that if they can. Like Scott said, you can't really know how soldiers feel in combat because you haven't experienced it. But you can get the benefit of the experience of those who have experienced it. And that should give you enough to make you want to do your best and to do your part to keep the freedom we have today. And I keep stressing freedom because it's so important. It's a legacy that is so precious and so important that so many people in the world don't have. And we've had it because of the sacrifices, and if we don't protect it today, we're going to lose it. We'll be in the same situation that people are in the Middle East and people in Syria fighting for today. So many dying and being killed by their own government. It could happen here. I don't remember the veterans that were involved in it, and the courage and all that they showed, and the fact that they preserved the freedom that the people today are enjoying because of their sacrifice. We lost over 400,000 young Americans in World War II. And that's a lot of people. That's twice the population of Columbus, metropolitan area of Columbus. And you think about that, 400,000 young people, and think what they could contribute to this country in the way of science or math or culture or arts or whatever. And it's a terrible thing. I want them to remember the cost of war. Nobody really wins in a war. One side gets control of the other side or stops the other side from doing what they want to do, but they're not real winners, they're all losers. Von Clausewitz, the Polish military theologian, said, "War is merely an extension of politics by other means." And I think that's true, as politics is what it is. And politics governs things, and that's the way it shouldn't be. But that's the way it is. That's life. But I hope people remember the sacrifices. And all veterans want is to be remembered and be respected, and for people to gain a lesson from their experience and know that war is a terrible thing, and that people have sacrificed to protect the freedom that they enjoy today. And it's their responsibility to protect it for the next generations. I think they're the greatest soldiers in the world. Absolutely, we don't have any better. There's no better anywhere. We owe a debt of gratitude, and we owe them something we never can repay. So many of those, especially the wounded warriors, they made sacrifices that we can never repay them for what they've done. And those still bearing the brunt of the fight today, they're great. I have utmost respect for them.